Welcome to my shop. My name is Steve. In this video I'm going to show you one of the two methods I use to cut three-way miters by machine. So let's head over to the workbench and do some dissection. So the anatomy of this three-way miter consists of a leg or a post which has a stub tenon and two mortises to accept floating tenons. And then the frame or top piece has a recess for the stub tenon and mortises for floating tenons. And the way this joint goes together is you put the frame first. This is the way it would be glued up. You would glue all the mortises and you would assemble your top frame and clamp it up. After that glue has cured, you want to go and insert your glue in your floating tenons in the post or leg. And then you would glue these together, and that registration of the floating tenon helps assemble the joint. Now this won't be tight because it's not glued or clamped up, but that's the makings of a good three-way miter. So let's get over to the table saw and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I'll be using a miter sled. It's clamped down to the carriage on my sliding table saw. You could use a similar sled on a regular table saw or cabinet saw, but I'm going to end up cutting a 45-degree half-lap miter joint on this piece. Okay, so I cut the first 45 half lap, and then I rotated it 90 degrees and made the second 45 half lap. I was just sneaking up on that cut such that these two outside faces meet at a sharp point. And the next cuts I make on this, I'm just going to go a full cut through, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm going to make a miter point on each one of these. Okay, so now I've got two sharp points. I was checking that first one real close because I never hit it on the first try. I always have to sneak up on it. But anyway, now let's head over to the router table and let's cut some mortises. I've got an 1/8" spiral upcut bit chucked up in the router. It is high-speed steel. It is not carbide. I actually prefer high-speed steel for this because I'm going to be making some fairly deep cuts, and carbide is so brittle I've actually snapped several of those off. The router is unplugged, and I'm going to use this stub tenon workpiece to set up the fence for cutting the mortise. And I want to put that mortise approximately halfway, the center of that mortise about halfway between the outside face and this surface of the tenon. Now this setup is for the point out. I'm going to have to do two setups on this. So I need to orient my stock such that the points these points are away from the fence. I'm going to drop the router bit down, and I'm going to have to make multiple cuts here. One thing that may be helpful is I like to put a mark on the fence where that cutting edge starts on that router bit, and I'll use that as a stop. And since this mitered corner, I don't want to go beyond that. When that mitered corner gets to that mark, I'll be done. I need to lower my bit a bit. Now I can't make the other side using the same settings, because if I did, I'd have to drop it down on the bit and go out. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is take this piece and use it as a setup by inverting it upside down and putting it as if I were feeding it in from the wrong side. And I'm going to slide this over the bit. And then I'm going to adjust my fence. Check my clearance, make sure I'm not. Now this is essentially an identical process to what we've already done. The only thing that's changed is the fence position. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'm going to complete this cut, and then we'll come back when that's done. Okay, so I've got the mortises cut for the floating tenons. Now what I need to do is create the sidewalls that will house the stub tenon from the leg piece. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the stub tenon as a layout, and I'm going to have to make two settings and two passes like I did on the last one. And what I'm looking for is for this spur on the inside of toward the fence side to be slightly inside the inside of this tenon. I'm just going to adjust the fence there, and we'll use this tenon as a test cut. And ideally, what I would like to see is just a feather edge left when I put this thing through. So let's see where we are. I'll make a test cut. Okay, there is just a very slight feather edge right here. I could probably adjust it a little more, and I probably will, just to move that fence a little further out. And then we'll see how this looks, and if it looks good, I'll make the cuts for the other pieces. So I've established, actually I'm going to have to do some hand chiseling on this because I'm just a little, I'll make a recess slightly narrower than I can, but it's a lot easier to chisel wood off than it is to chisel wood on. So now I'm going to readjust the fence to make the opposite side cut. In order to do that, I'm going to use the stub tenon again. So my point, when I made this other cut, the point was against the fence. This point was against the fence. Now it will be away from the fence. And I should be off by about 1/8 of an inch. So what I need to do is adjust this fence in much the same way as we did the last one. And I'll make a test cut, and we'll repeat the process. Okay, so what I just did there was establish the inside shoulders, or close to the inside shoulders of where this stub tenon will fit. And I'm actually probably going to have to take the chisel to it. I'm close, but it won't be much. I'll do that by hand. It won't be a problem. think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just glue this joint together, because it's I'm really close, and I'm having a difficult time holding it, which is typical of three-way miters. This Collins clamp is just a spring clamp, and it's got 2 sharp points. What I'm going to do is position this to where those points apply the clamping pressure approximately in the center of the miter. Okay, but let's look at the joint so far. Just a little ridge, maybe the thickness of a sheet of paper or less. The inside, I've got a slight gap there, which is normal for me making this joint. And the inside, okay, so now that we're out of the clamps, I've got the floating tenons inserted in the leg portion. And let's just see how this goes together. I don't want to stress this joint too much because it is not completely cured yet. Glued together, that's going to look very nice. So anyway, that's how I do a three-way miter with just a table saw and a router and some hand tools. So that does it for this video. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. And in the next video, I'm going to show you a different method using machinery only, making this three-way miter. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.